My name is Tim Kenny from Tim Kenny Surveying, and in this video I'd like to address probably one of the most common questions I get from clients, and I think is a big question for anybody looking at surveys, and that is, what type of survey should I have? If you're watching this video, you've probably already done a little bit of homework, a little bit of research into surveys, and you'll know there are three types of survey, or three levels of survey. Level 1, Level 2 and Level 3. Unimaginative names, but quite simple and clear. Straight up, I'm going to say I'm probably not going to talk much or at all about survey level 1, primarily because it's quite a niche product. Not something I actually offer, not something a lot of surveyors offer, although there are some out there who do it. As I said, it's kind of a niche product. If you are considering what type of survey to have, a level 1 is probably not going to suit you. If you need a level 1 survey, then you probably already know about that, and that's a fine choice for you, so I don't really need me to kind of explain anything about it. So I'm going to stick to level 2 and level 3. The first thing I'm going to say is, before you start worrying about what type of survey to have, start by thinking about what type of surveyor to have. Now, survey level 2 and level 3, there is a standard that goes along with that. There's a sort of form of standardisation that sits around it. But that doesn't mean every level 2 survey is the same, or every level 3 survey is the same. You can have two different surveyors carry out a same survey level on the same property, and actually you get quite different results. Probably not so much in terms of the defects that are identified, but how the surveyor approaches that, how they explain it, the format they use, the way they display it, the service that goes along with that. So before you start worrying about what type of survey to get, think about what type of surveyor, right? and speak to surveyors. Right? Speak to them first before you can think about what level of survey to get. You know, what is their approach to how they do it? Get to know them, get to speak to them, see if you can, even if you can speak to them directly, explain any concerns or ideas you have for the property. Right? So to take me for example, so I am a residential surveyor. I primarily just do home surveys and a few other little bits and pieces. Been in the property industry for about almost 20 years. That sounds like a long time now, I say it. On top of that, I'm also a university lecturer. So I lecture around building pathology, a degree in master's level. I'm also an industry trainer, helping to train surveyors and already qualified surveyors. And I'm also a member of a couple of RICS expert working groups, again looking at issues around home surveys. Right? As you can probably see from this video, I take a fairly relaxed, informal approach. I'm not standing in front of some fancy looking house in a branded gilet and polo shirt trying to look all smart, and that's kind of how I approach most of what I do. It's very accessible. I do quite a low volume of work, so I have time to spend talking to my clients both before and afterwards, making sure you're getting the right service for you, and also making sure after the service any questions you have are answered. Right, so that's the type of surveyor I am. That's how I do my job. That kind of applies to any level of survey I provide. Right? That might be right for you, that might not be right for you. There are other surveyors who work in different ways, or some in similar ways, some in different ways. So you need to find the surveyor that's right for you first. Right? Once you've done that, then you can start to have a conversation with them about the survey levels. Right? And I will say that it should be a conversation, it should be a discussion. I know some surveyors will just kind of put out information about the survey levels, and we'll talk about some of that. And then you just pick which one you want and you book it, and it's done and it's gone. Right? It's kind of okay, it's convenient, I suppose, it theoretically works. But the point it kind of misses, and really kind of quite an important point in the process, is you. Right? The survey levels do not just apply to which type of properties. There's the next thing we'll talk about, which might dictate what type of survey would be appropriate. But the first thing that dictates it is you, the client. If we look at the home survey standards, the RICS home survey standards, that's the kind of guidance document that sits and tells me as a surveyor and all other RICS members how to do home surveys. The first thing it says in there when it starts to talk about survey levels is it says this is about the needs of the clients, effectively. So it's what you need from a survey that comes first. That's the defining fact of it. How much information do you need? Right? Because fundamentally it's the amount of information you're given within the survey that will affect the survey level. Right? So to give you an example, so if you are buying a relatively simple property, a relatively standard property, all properties are individual, but relatively standard, but you have a particular need for more information. right, then you're probably going to want a level 3 survey. If you're buying a relatively standard property and you don't need more information, then a level 2 is probably going to be okay. So you might need more information if, for example, you've got planning on doing major renovation or extension works to that building, right? Because you need to know more, because that's going to affect whether those works are possible. It's going to affect, how you structure those works, the cost of those works. You need that additional information to help that process. So if you need that, then you're probably going to want to go to a level 3 as opposed to a level 2. On the reverse side, if you're looking at perhaps an older, more traditional property, but you've got the sort of buyer that you bought 5 similar properties in the past and you've done them all up and you've done a lot of work and you really understand those buildings and you have that personal depth of knowledge, you know what? Normally it might be a level 3, but because you have that prior experience, that prior knowledge that you're bringing to it as well, a level 2 might be suitable for you. Okay, so that's why it's quite important to understand what your individual needs are, and that's why it's really important to have a conversation with the surveyor first. Once you've done that, then you can start to, they can obviously then feed back into it what about that individual property is particularly requiring of a level 2 or a level 3, for example. So, level 2, it really is for, again, I'm trying to find the right way to explain it, but for a typical property, as I as a surveyor would understand a typical property, a property that does not have any additional risk to it, right? Now, for me as a surveyor, that tends to mean certainly anything built after 1930s is generally considered modern in a surveying sense. I know 1930 is almost 100 years ago, but for us as a surveyor, the kind of construction methods and everything else is kind of essentially still the same as it is now, with a few little variation. Of course, that only applies to typical construction, so kind of a cavity wall construction fundamentally made out of standard materials. As soon as you drift away from that, even if it is modern in that context, then you're probably going to want to move away from a level 2. So it might be of non-standard construction. So in the 1930s through to the 1960s, there were all sorts of different forms of construction being tried out, particularly after the war, which want to build things very quickly. Certain methods were used to try and speed up that production, and that produced some slightly unusual buildings. Right? So although they might only be 75 years old, for example, and relatively modern, actually the construction methods and the knowledge the surveyor needs to have and the explanation you will need to understand that property is going to be higher. So therefore you're going to want a level 3. Other reasons you might want a level 3 survey, an older property. And it's what we might call a traditional construction. Generally going to have solid walls, might even be stone construction. Where we are I'm based in Chichester, a lot of flint building around here, but it might be sandstone or it might be some of the more unusual local construction forms. Right? Again, they need slightly more specialist knowledge, they will need more information, because when you come to do any work to that property, whether that be any repairs that are already detailed in the report or any maintenance within that's necessary, it's going to need specialist knowledge. So you need to have a deeper level of understanding as the homeowner as to what you do with that building, and therefore you will need the depth of knowledge in level 3. Okay, so it's not a kind of a simple, straightforward thing, but there is this kind of understanding the needs of the individual property, and your surveyor should be able to help you through that. And ideally, they will look at the information on Rightmove, any other information you have, and they'll have a conversation with you about that. They might ask you if you're aware of any particular existing defects in it. Are you aware that it's whether the condition of the property might be good or bad? Those things will factor into that decision-making process, and they should help you. They can advise you through that process. So I think that brings us kind of then on to what actually is the difference between a level 2 and a level 3 survey. Again, if you've done any kind of research in this area, you've looked at surveyors' websites, you've probably seen a little table that sets out, might say level 1, level 2, level 3, and it'll have little tick boxes telling you what is inspected and what is not inspected. So it might say opening all the windows, no on a level 2, no on a level 1, yes on a level 3, right? And various other bits and pieces like that. That's trying to explain to you that there is a level of variation in the inspection routine for particularly between a level 2 and a level 3. Right? The surveyor will carry out a slightly more thorough inspection routine on a level 3. Right? And there is some importance in that. It's really useful because it allows, on a level 3 particularly, the surveyor to get more information about any defects they found. Right? That increase in inspection level probably won't mean that they will find more defects. There are some situations where that is true, but fundamentally it's not the norm. But when they do find a defect, because they carry out that further level of inspection, they'll have more information about that defect. And that's why that variation is important. It doesn't apply to all elements of the building, the way that the standards are currently structured, but generally speaking, the surveyor will be a little bit more thorough. They will dig a little bit deeper, although in a non-invasive sense. All of those inspections will be non-invasive, but they will go a little bit further to find out things. So opening up secured panels, for example, will be done on a level 3, but not on a level 2. It's some other little bits and pieces like that. So they have more information on the defect. And the reason they need more information on the defects then brings us into the second part of any survey, and that is the report. Because the biggest difference between a level 2 and a level 3 is not the inspection, it's actually the level of information you get back within the survey report. You know, the surveyor has gone further with the inspection, they've got more information, and they'll provide more information to you within the report. So on a level 2, kind of working through, on level 2 it will tell you, obviously there'll be some stuff about sort of legal stuff and some other bits and pieces, but when we talk about the actual condition of the building, it will tell you the construction type. It'll give you a level of information about what type of construction each element is. It will talk about the condition and it will identify any defects. And it will give you a broad understanding of what might need to be done about those defects. Right? And simple. And that's usually enough for many people when they're buying a house. But on level 3, it will do those 3 things, but it will go that bit further. You'll have more information about the construction, for example, which again is really helpful if you're going to carry out any major works to the building. You need to know how it's put together, because, as I said, that's going to affect the works that you can do. It will give you more information about the defects, and it will explain in more depth perhaps the cause of those defects, the potential effects of those defects, and what it might have as a consequential effect, how soon you need to do it, a rough idea of timescales and everything else. It will then go into providing more information about how to repair it. So on a level 2, it's kind of a broad outline of the repair. On a level 3, it's going to give you much more detail. So you've got a full breakdown of it. Now, of course, if you're going to do the work yourself, that's really helpful. But it's also helpful if you're going to pass that work to a contractor, because then when you get a quote from that contractor, you can compare it to what your surveyor says, and you know what, the contractor's saying I need to do something really different to what my surveyor said. What's going on there? Do I need to speak to the surveyor or do I need to speak to the contractor? Right? So you've got that starting point to understand what is being done, so you can make sure the right things are being done. The other thing a level 3 will provide is information about ongoing maintenance of the building. So the surveys themselves are fundamentally a snapshot of the condition of the property at the time of inspection. Right? Certainly on a level 2, it is just that snapshot. But this is what it's like now. Level 3, yeah, you'll get that snapshot, but you'll also get some estimate of what you need to do moving forward, and how you can look after that property to make sure it stays in a good condition. So, classic example might be replacing flat roof covering. So, flat roof coverings generally have a lower lifespan than a pitched roof covering. So, tiles and slate last a lot longer than roofing felt, for example. So, when a surveyor is looking at a flat roof on a level 3, they will try and identify how old that covering is. They will then compare that to their understanding of the lifespan of those materials, and they will then give you an idea of how much longer that had left, and therefore how much longer you're going to need before you have to replace it. So, I'm looking at a flat roof, I can see that, it's starting to maybe wear a little bit, but it's kind of okay. I say, okay, maybe it's been there 15 years, but if it's doing all right at the moment, you're probably going to be able to get away with another 5 years, and then you're going to replace it. Or obviously, if I've seen it, it's really good condition, the client produced me some paperwork, say, yeah, no, I had it done last year, it's really good. I say, that's really good. You're in a fairly sheltered location, then it's probably going to be all right for an extended period. So you as the buyer, not going to have to worry about that for a while. So you can plan accordingly for the future stuff. Plus also there's little bits of maintenance. How often you need to pay to repair the windows or decorate the windows, the external woodwork, and all these other little bits and pieces that, again, if you perhaps don't have knowledge of that particular type of building, you won't know what you need to do, and therefore that level 3 is going to give you that information. A level 2 won't. It's just it cuts off at just these other conditions and these are the defects you need to deal with right now. As I said, hopefully that gives you a broad overview. I know it's a complicated subject. The only way you can really do it is to say, speak to your surveyor, understand what they provide under their level 2, their level 3, make sure they're the right surveyor for you. If you think I am, then get in touch and you're in my area, I'll certainly send you a quote. But if you've got any particular questions, you can drop it in the comments and I'll try and help out as best I can. Anyway, thank you very much.